Imagine this. You're lying in a hospital bed, barely clinging to life after a devastating accident. You can't even speak for yourself. And suddenly, the very family you escaped from, the ones who made your life a living hell, swoop in. Not to help you, but to make sure you suffer. But what they didn't count on was your ex-wife. The same woman they forced you to marry as a teenager. And when she realized they were about to finish what fate had started, she lit a match that burned their entire empire to the ground. If you've ever dreamed of seeing karma come crashing down on people who deserve it, then hit that like button, subscribe, and buckle up, because this is one of the most shocking and satisfying revenge stories you'll ever. Rae and Justin weren't just childhood friends, they were survivors. Survivors of a suffocating, insular religious community, a group so extreme, it was on the edge of being a full-blown cult. Growing up, curiosity was forbidden. Books, restricted, questions, dangerous. But Rae and Justin were different. They read everything they could get their hands on, secretly. And through those forbidden pages, they saw glimpses of a world outside the cult. A world where freedom was possible. That shared hunger for freedom drew them together in high school. They weren't doing anything scandalous, just driving around, holding hands, talking about dreams bigger than their tiny town. But in their community, dating was a sin beyond forgiveness. And when their parents found out, they forced them to get married. No choice. No chance to say no. Teenagers shackled into a marriage neither of them wanted. But here's the thing. Forcing them together didn't break them. It made them stronger. Behind closed doors, Rae and Justin plotted their escape like prisoners digging a tunnel. They opened a secret bank account outside the community's reach so no one could watch their money. Quietly, paycheck by paycheck, they siphoned off small amounts, just enough to stay invisible. And at 20 years old, they did it. In the dead of night, they packed everything they could fit into a car and vanished, leaving behind families who would never forgive them. They got divorced soon after, amicably because honestly, they were never meant to be husband and wife. But their bond, that was unbreakable. They were each other's family now. Still, the cult never let go. For years, they were stalked, harassed, even targeted with identity theft attempts. Justin and Rae fought tooth and nail to build a life of peace. And for a while, it seemed like maybe they had it. Then came the accident. Justin was on his bike when a car blew a stop sign and smashed into him. His body was broken. Blood everywhere. He was rushed to the ICU, barely conscious, hooked to machines. When Rae got the call, she shattered. Her hands shook so violently she couldn't even hold her phone. Her sobs filled the car as friends rushed her to the hospital. And when she got there, she wasn't even sure he recognized her. His eyes were glazed, his words slurred. She thought she'd already lost him. But then it got worse. 14 hours later, the people Rae feared most arrived. Justin's parents, his uncles, his grandfather, the cult. The hospital kicked Rae and all the friends out. Because legally she wasn't his wife anymore. She had no rights. Rae collapsed in the hallway, screaming that they couldn't be trusted, that they would kill him. Her friends tried to calm her down. They're his parents. They wouldn't hurt him. But Rae knew better. She grew up in that system. She knew what suffering meant to them. In their twisted belief, suffering wasn't tragedy. It was punishment from God. Proof that leaving the cult was wrong. And if Justin's suffering was prolonged, maybe he'd crawl back in repentance. That's when a friend from inside the hospital pulled Rae aside. Nervously, she whispered that Justin's family was already pushing lawyers to gain custody, demanding the hospital release him into their care. They wanted to drag him out before he could recover. Rae's heart froze. She knew. if they got their hands on him, he wouldn't make it out alive. That was the breaking point. The fear in her eyes hardened into something else. Something sharp. Something dangerous. Rae snapped into survival mode, and her target wasn't just Justin's family, it was everything they had ever built. She started making calls. First, the IRS hotline. "Hello, I have information about a family business committing tax fraud." She gave dates, names, numbers. Next, the ATF. "There's an illegal firearms operation. They're selling guns to convicted felons without paperwork." Then the uncle. A felon himself, and yet stockpiling weapons. She reported him directly. One by one, she lit matches. Justin's mom, running an unlicensed daycare with 30 kids crammed into one house, supervised mostly by her own underage daughters. Rae called Child Protective Services. Other uncles? Keeping kids out of school. Beating them. She filed report after report, every secret, every crime, every sin the family thought would stay buried. Rae dug up and laid bare, and then she waited. Hours later, Justin finally opened his eyes with clarity. He was weak, trembling, but lucid, and when he realized what was happening, he summoned what little strength he had and told his family, "Get out." For the first time in days, Rae exhaled. She had saved him, but the storm Rae unleashed was just beginning. 2 weeks later, the voicemail started. Screaming, threats, pleading. The IRS was investigating. The ATF was investigating. The daycare? Shut down. One uncle? Arrested? Sentenced to 5 years for gun possession. The business that propped up their entire family? Collapsed under fraud charges. Even the children, once kept home as unpaid labor, were now in school. CPS might not have saved them completely, but the family was too scared to break the rules anymore. Rae hadn't just saved Justin. She had burned down the empire that had terrorized them both since birth. And as for Justin, he didn't fully recover. He'll always live with tremors and neurological damage. But he can work, live, laugh, and love. And most importantly, he's alive. Alive and free. And that's a victory neither Rae nor Justin ever thought they'd see. The image of that family, their empire in ruins, their secrets exposed, their crimes punished, was the sweetest kind of justice. They tried to drag Justin back into suffering. Instead, Rae dragged them into the light, and once the light hit them, there was no place left to hide. This story is proof of something powerful. Sometimes the people who hurt us most are the ones closest to us, but it's also proof that with courage, and yes, even a little vengeance, you can break chains that feel unbreakable. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button and tell me in the comments, what's the most satisfying revenge you've ever witnessed? And of course, subscribe for more stories like this one, because trust me, there are plenty more tales of karma to come.